When you're facing down unimaginable torture, what do? Most people would scream. They'd beg for their life. But one man, sentenced to one of history's most brutal executions, did something completely different. He told a joke. This is the incredible story of the saint who, while being burned alive, sarcastically quipped to his killer and became an absolute legend. If you love incredible stories of courage and defiance from the past, think about subscribing and join our community dedicated to digging up history's most amazing tales. To really get this story, we have to travel back to the Roman Empire in the mid-3rd century. This was a seriously dangerous time to be a Christian. The empire was going through what historians call the crisis of the 3rd century. Basically, it was falling apart from the inside, riddled with division, economic collapse, and constant attacks on its borders. The man in charge of this fracturing empire was Emperor Valerian. Like a lot of emperors, Valerian didn't see Christianity as a peaceful faith. He saw it as a threat to Roman unity. You see, Christians refused to take part in the state religion, which meant they wouldn't make sacrifices to the Roman gods or worship the emperor as a god. For a ruler desperately trying to keep a crumbling empire together, this wasn't just religion, it was rebellion. In 257 AD, Valerian issued his first edict. All Christian clergy had to perform sacrifices to the Roman gods or be exiled. A year later, in 258, he cranked up the persecution. His second edict ordered that all bishops, priests, and deacons were to be executed on the spot. And that's the world where we meet our hero, a young man named Lawrence. Born in what's now Spain, Lawrence traveled to Rome and quickly rose through the ranks because of his sharp mind and deep faith. Under Pope Sixtus II, he was named one of Rome's 7 deacons and then became the archdeacon. This basically made him the church's CFO, in charge of all its material goods and, most importantly, giving aid to the city's poor, sick, and widowed. He was the keeper of the church's treasury, a job that was about to put him on a collision course with the most powerful empire in the world. On August 6, 258 AD, the emperor's order hit the church in Rome like a thunderbolt. Roman soldiers captured Pope Sixtus II and 6 other deacons while they were celebrating Mass in the catacombs and executed them. Just like that, the church's leadership was gone, all except for one man, Lawrence. The story goes that as the Pope was led to his death, a weeping Lawrence followed him, asking, "Father, where are you going without your deacon?" Pope Sixtus supposedly comforted him, saying, "I am not leaving you, my son. In 3 days you will follow me." With the Pope gone, the city's prefect, a greedy Roman official, saw a golden opportunity. He knew Lawrence was the archdeacon and figured the church must have a secret, massive fortune. Gold chalices, silver plates, stacks of coins. He summoned Lawrence and gave him an ultimatum: hand over all the treasures of the church to the empire. Lawrence, standing before the might of Rome, didn't argue. Instead, according to early accounts, he asked for a little time. "The church is very rich," he reportedly told the prefect. "Give me 3 days to gather all of its wealth." The prefect, dreaming of all that gold, eagerly agreed. He had no clue he was about to be completely and very publicly outsmarted. For the next 3 days, Lawrence wasn't collecting gold and silver. Instead, he worked around the clock, traveling through Rome's poorest neighborhoods. He sought out the very people the church existed to support: the poor, the crippled, the blind, the widows, and the orphans. He gave away every last bit of money and goods he controlled, making sure the real wealth of the church went to those who needed it most. On the 3rd day, the prefect showed up, rubbing his hands together, ready to collect his loot. He found Lawrence waiting, but not with chests of treasure. Instead, Lawrence stood before a huge crowd of the city's most vulnerable and forgotten citizens. The prefect, furious and confused, demanded to see the treasures he was promised. And this is where Lawrence pulls off his legendary act of defiance. Gesturing to the crowd of suffering people behind him, he made a declaration that has echoed for centuries. These are the true treasures of the church. He explained that these people were the vessels where true treasure was stored. He presented the very people the Roman Empire considered worthless as the church's greatest assets. This was more than just a clever comeback. It was a radical statement that flipped Roman values of power and wealth on their head. It was a declaration that God's kingdom valued the poor and weak more than all the gold in the empire. The prefect was not amused. He was humiliated. He'd been played for a fool, and his revenge would be swift and brutal. Furious, he had Lawrence arrested and sentenced to die, but it wouldn't be a quick death like a beheading. For this defiant deacon, the prefect ordered a slow, agonizing execution designed to inflict the most pain possible. Now, the method of execution the prefect chose, according to the famous legend, was horrifically cruel: death by fire. As the story goes, Lawrence was stripped and tied to a giant metal gridiron, with hot coals placed underneath to slowly roast him alive. But this is where we need to press pause and separate the story from the history. Most modern historians are skeptical about the whole roasted on a gridiron detail. The standard method of execution for clergy under Valerian's edict was a swift beheading, just like the Pope received. Some scholars even think the entire gridiron story might have started with a simple typo in Latin, where the phrase passus est, meaning he suffered, was misread as assus est, he was roasted. But whether it's historical fact or a legendary tale, what happened next is what cemented Lawrence's place in history. As the fire burned and his torturers watched, expecting screams of agony, they heard only a strange, unsettling calm. Lawrence, with a strength that seemed beyond human, endured the pain without breaking. And then, after suffering for a long time, the legend says he did the unthinkable. He looked at his executioners and, with a sarcastic tone you can still feel centuries later, he delivered his famous line. "Turn me over," he quipped. "I'm well done on this side." It's a line so gutsy, so completely defiant in the face of death, it's hard to believe. In his final moments, while facing one of the most brutal deaths imaginable, Lawrence didn't beg for mercy. He mocked his tormentors. It was the ultimate spiritual victory over physical pain. With a single line of dark humor, he showed them that while they could destroy his body, they had zero power over his spirit. His wit was his final weapon, and it left his killers powerless. Before he died, he reportedly prayed for the conversion of Rome, his final thoughts not on his suffering, but on the faith he was dying for. The death of St. Lawrence on August 10th, 258 AD, didn't have the effect the prefect wanted. Instead of scaring Christians into submission, his courage and shocking sense of humor did the exact opposite. Tradition says his powerful witness inspired many who saw it, including some Roman senators who converted on the spot. His martyrdom became a symbol not of the empire's power, but of the unbreakable resilience of faith. In the centuries that followed, Lawrence became one of the most beloved saints in Christianity. He's now considered the third patron saint of Rome itself, right after Peter and Paul. When Christianity was finally legalized, Emperor Constantine ordered a great basilica built over his tomb, San Lorenzo fuori le mura, which is still a major church in Rome today. But his most fascinating legacy is found in who he's the patron saint of. Because he presented the poor as the church's treasure, he's the patron saint of the poor. Because he was in charge of the church's records, he's the patron saint of archivists and librarians. And in a perfect ironic twist, because of his fiery end, Saint Lawrence is the patron saint of cooks, chefs, and anyone who works with fire. And of course, because of that one legendary wisecrack in the face of death, Saint Lawrence is celebrated as the patron saint of comedians. His story is a powerful reminder that humor can be a form of strength, a light in the darkest times, and a powerful tool of defiance against tyranny. It proves that even in the middle of unimaginable suffering, the human spirit can find a way to get the last laugh. The story of Saint Lawrence, the man who joked with his executioner, is so much more than just a historical account. It's an amazing story about courage in its most unexpected form. It challenges our ideas of how people should face down oppression. Lawrence showed the world that defiance doesn't always have to be a loud roar. Sometimes it's a quiet, witty remark that exposes the absurdity of cruelty. His legacy teaches that real wealth isn't gold, but compassion, and that true strength isn't the power to hurt others, but the courage to endure with your spirit and even your sense of humor intact. What part of this story did you find the most incredible? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this trip into the past, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories that history almost forgot. Thanks for watching.